The Wedding of Fear. Once upon a time, in a kingdom hidden by mountains and thick mist, there lived a beautiful princess named Elira. She was the only daughter of King Aldred, who ruled the realm with pride but little warmth. Elira's mother had passed away when she was young, and the cold halls of the palace echoed with silence instead of love. As Elira grew older, the king began to worry about his legacy when a neighboring ruler offered peace through marriage by wedding Elira to his cursed son, the Beast of the Blackwood. King Aldred agreed without even asking his daughter. Elira's protests meant nothing. Her tears were seen as weakness. On the night before the wedding, Elira sat beside her window, watching the moonlight spill over the quiet palace garden. A servant girl named Brina, the only one who ever treated her with kindness, brought her warm milk and whispered, "They say he has claws like knives and eyes that glow red in the dark." Elira trembled, not knowing if the story was true, but part of her wished the beast would reject her so she could return home. But deep down, she knew this was no fairy tale with happy endings. Her fate had already been sold. The day of the wedding arrived, with no celebration, only fear. Elira wore a pale blue gown, the color of sadness. The royal priest stood trembling, and the guests remained silent. The beast arrived wrapped in a dark cloak, his face hidden, his voice low and rough. As he took Elira's hand, his touch was cold but not cruel. She dared not meet his eyes. The ceremony ended quickly, and with a final look at her father, who nodded without emotion, Elira was led away from the palace, the place she once called home. The journey to the beast's castle was silent and slow. Elira rode in a closed carriage, while the beast rode ahead on a black horse. They crossed forests and rivers until they reached a dark valley where the castle stood like a wound in the earth. Twisted towers, black stone, and ivy like claws on the walls. As she stepped out, the air smelled of damp stone and old sorrow. The castle door creaked open by itself, and a whisper seemed to pass through the wind. "Welcome, princess. Your real story begins now." The beast who watched in silence. Elira expected to be locked in a cold tower, fed by shadows, and watched by glowing red eyes. But instead, she was given a warm chamber with soft cushions, clean robes, and a silver mirror on the wall. The castle, though dark and strange, was not cruel. The beast never forced her to speak or dine with him. Every evening, a quiet knock came at her door, and food was left on a golden tray. Elira remained alone, but not harmed. The silence was deep, but not heavy. Sometimes she heard music in the distance, soft notes from a forgotten piano, like someone was remembering how to feel. One evening, curiosity overtook her fear. She stepped out of her chamber and wandered through the castle halls. She expected screams or snarls, but only found stillness and candlelight. Then she saw him, the beast, standing in the garden under the moonlight. His cloak was off, revealing fur-covered arms, broad shoulders, and the back of a head shaped like a wolf's. But he wasn't growling or pacing. He was gently placing flowers on a grave, one marked with the name Mother. Elira stood frozen, her breath caught. He turned slowly, sensing her, but said nothing. His eyes weren't red at all. They were gray, like ash and storm. Over the next days, Elira found herself watching him. He moved slowly, with care. He read old books, wrote in thick journals, and never broke anything. The castle was filled with paintings, poems, and carvings. evidence of a soul far gentler than his appearance. One afternoon, she found a painting of a little boy holding his mother's hand. She looked closer. The boy had fur on his cheeks. On the back of the painting were the words, "She said I was still her son, even when I became this." Elira felt something twist inside her, not fear, but sorrow. That night, she joined him in the dining hall for the first time. He looked surprised but pleased. They didn't speak much, but he served her soup with shaking hands. "Why do you stay away from me?" she asked softly. The beast lowered his head. "Because I scare you." Elira looked at him for a long moment. "You scare me less than the world I came from." The beast blinked, and for the first time, something like hope passed through his eyes. Whispers in the dark halls. Days turned into weeks, and Elira stopped thinking of the beast as a monster. He became someone real, someone broken, yet gentle. She learned his name was Kale. Once cursed by a jealous sorcerer, he was transformed into a beast not for what he did, but for what his father had done. His father, a cruel king, had hunted magical beings for sport. The sorcerer had tried to punish the king, but the curse had fallen on innocent Kale instead. "I became a beast the day my father died," Kale whispered one evening, as rain tapped gently on the stained glass windows. As Elira explored the castle further, she discovered a locked room behind a tapestry. One night, while Kale was away in the tower, she picked the lock with a hairpin. Inside was a cold chamber filled with dusty mirrors. In each mirror, Elira saw a different version of herself, one crying, one screaming, one smiling with a twisted mouth. Her heart pounded. In the center of the room sat a small enchanted mirror, glowing with blue fire. She picked it up, and it spoke. "He is not the monster," it whispered, "but someone close to you is." Startled, Elira dropped it and ran. She confronted Kale that night. "Why do you keep a room of mirrors that lie?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kale's eyes darkened with sorrow. "They don't lie. They show what others see, and what you fear." He took the small blue mirror and locked it away again. "I have tried to destroy them, but they always return." Elira, shaken, could not sleep. The words of the mirror haunted her. Who was the real monster? Her stepmother? Her cruel sisters? Or someone even closer, still watching from behind silk curtains in the palace? A week later, a letter arrived. It was from her old palace, sealed with her father's crest. Kale handed it to her without a word. Elira opened it with trembling hands. "Return at once," the letter read. "Your father is gravely ill." Her heart twisted. She looked at Kyle. "You must go," he said gently. "I'll send guards to protect you." Elira nodded, but her chest felt hollow. She didn't want to leave, but duty called. As she rode away from the castle, she looked back and saw Kale standing alone on the tower, watching her disappear into the forest. The monster behind the throne. When Elira arrived at the palace, everything looked the same, but it felt different. The guards bowed, but their eyes didn't meet hers. Her father lay weak in bed, barely able to speak. "You married the beast," he whispered, clutching her hand. "But beware. Your stepmother smiles with teeth." That night, Elira noticed how her stepmother, Queen Lorena, never asked about her journey or Kale. Instead, she hosted a banquet in Elira's honor, with strange guests and dancers from far kingdoms. Lorena raised her glass. "To the princess who tamed a monster," she said with a smile. Elira's stomach turned. Later that evening, Elira overheard voices behind the throne room wall. Hidden between stone columns, she stood still as a shadow. "The curse will break when she chooses him freely," Lorena said coldly. "But if she stays too long in the castle, the beast might win her heart." Elira's blood froze. Her stepmother had known about the curse all along. Worse, Lorena had planned it. The sorcerer, he had been her brother. "If the girl stays away from him long enough, the curse will become permanent," Lorena continued. "Then the throne will be mine, and the creature will rot in his forest." Elira ran to her father's chamber, heart pounding. "Did you know?" she asked him. Tears welled in his tired eyes. "I was a fool," he whispered. "I believed Lorena when she said she wanted peace. She poisoned your mother, Elira, and now she wants your crown." Elira collapsed beside him, grief crashing over her. Everything she believed was shattered. Her stepmother wasn't just cruel, she was the true monster, hiding in fine silk and jewels. And Kyle, he had only ever tried to protect her. She had to return before it was too late. Before dawn, Elira packed a small bag, disguised herself in a servant's cloak, and slipped away on horseback. As the castle faded behind her, her heart raced, not with fear, but with purpose. She didn't care about the crown or the lies anymore. She cared about Kyle. She would choose him, not because of the curse, but because of the kindness behind his eyes and the loneliness she had felt in his silence. As she crossed the river and entered the thick woods, she whispered to the wind, "Wait for me, Kyle. I know now who the real monster is."